Welcome to the Confidence in You podcast, designed to help you build confidence and create positive, lasting change in your life. And here's your host, Helen Luxford.
Welcome back to the podcast, and thanks again for being here. In today's episode, we're going to talk about one of the most powerful choices you can make, the choice to change. At some point in our lives, we've all told ourselves stories about who we are. Stories that often limit us. Stories like, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, or this is just who I am. And as a coach, I deal with this with every client. But what if I told you that you can rewrite those stories? You can change the narrative and create a life that reflects who you truly are deep inside and who you want to be. So let's talk about the stories we tell ourselves. We all have that little voice inside our head, the one that pipes up and says things to us, especially in times of making decisions or doing something new or different. We all have an internal narrative, those recurring thoughts that shape how we see ourselves and the world around us. Now, these stories come from our experiences, from our upbringing, and even societal expectations, societal norms, collective beliefs or standards that others perceive are important. And sometimes these stories serve us well, but other times they hold us back and are limiting beliefs. So think about this, for example. Think about someone who has been told they're not creative, or a child who grew up in a home where their carers or teachers or influential adults always told them they're dumb, they're not good enough, they'll never amount to anything. And when they dared to ask for something or express a dream or a desire they had, they were told, who do you think you are to think you'll ever have that? Now compare that to a child who was raised by being told by those around them that they are kind and clever and caring and smart and sporty and academic and musical, and that they could do and be anything they want when they grow up. What different internal dialogue do you think these two kids would have growing up? And think about how that plays out for us as adults today, because whether we want to admit it or not, we all carry memories from what we were told, how we were treated, and what we believe to be true as a kid, and that unconsciously informs our decision making today as adults. This happens because over time as kids, we internalize those beliefs and stories that we're told that are reinforced by words and actions of those around us, and we either strive for success or, more often than not, we stop trying new things and stop exploring our creativity. Now, it's not that any kid can't be creative, caring, smart, sporty. It's that the environment in which they've been raised means that they've accepted what they're hearing around them because that's all they know. And this becomes their story, and it becomes a limiting story that lives inside of us. A quote from J.K. Rowling that is powerful is, "It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." This quote reminds us that we are not defined by our past stories or even our abilities, but by the choices we make moving forward, because as adults, we can learn new and different things. We can make different choices. We can do different things if we decide, if we choose to do so. So now let's talk about the power of changing your narrative. Here's the thing, you have the power to change your story. You just have to be aware that you want to do it. You're not stuck in the narrative that you've been telling yourself or the ideas or the beliefs that you've been raised with. And somewhere deep down inside, you have a stirring or an inkling, and you know that. And the first step is recognizing that your story is just a story. We all have them. You're not alone. Every one of us has them. It's a story. They're not necessarily facts, and in most cases, they're not facts at all. And the second step is making the conscious choice to rewrite your story. You are the author of your life, and you can rewrite the end of the chapter or the book, but you have to choose to do so. No one else can do it for you. I've worked with clients who constantly told themselves that they weren't a leader or leadership material, but I've seen in them that they have natural leadership abilities. It's just that they can't see it. One person I worked with who I mentored was terrified of taking on leadership roles, even though people naturally gravitated toward her. Her internal story was, I don't have enough experience. Who am I to lead a team when I don't have a leadership title? But the truth was, she was a leader. She just needed to rewrite the narrative she'd accepted for years and years. When I worked with her, I asked her, what do you do outside of work? Because I knew what she did outside of work and I could see her leadership ability. And when she was telling me about her weekends and her evenings and how she volunteered and all of the things she did in that volunteer capacity, I slowly saw it dawn on her that she was already a leader. And she didn't have a leadership title in those volunteer roles, but she was a leader. Some of the things she did was lead groups each week to create things for the community. She organised annual week-long events and then mentored, delivered and facilitated sessions over that week at community skills development camp for kids. She had heaps of leadership experience and she naturally was able to lead others and influence her peers. Once she realised this and once she chose to embrace the fact that leadership doesn't belong with a job title or to have to look a certain way, everything changed for her. She put her hand up and stepped into leadership roles with confidence and realised that her story wasn't a reflection of her ability, but of her fear and her beliefs that she'd grown up with, that you had to have a job title to be a leader, and nothing could be further from the truth. So I ask you to ponder and I wonder, what's a story that you've got going on inside of you that might be holding you back or stopping you from doing something you want to do and that you would love an opportunity to experience doing? Think about them and make a note so that you can work on changing that story, because with awareness comes choice. When you identify and become aware of that old story, you now have a choice to change it or not. The point is, you now know, so the choice is yours. Okay, we've discussed a lot in this episode, so let's now talk about steps to rewriting your story. How do you go about rewriting your story? Well, as I just said, it starts with awareness. With awareness comes choice. If you're not aware of something, you don't have a choice to change it. But once you are aware, and we've spoken about the fact that we all have stories that limit us in some part of our lives, you have that awareness now. So the thing is, you just need to think about it. You need to identify what is a limiting story that you've grown up with, that you believe to be true as an adult, that probably isn't true and it's just been limiting you. So here's a quick exercise. Get a notebook or your phone or a laptop or something and write down any thoughts you have about yourself that start with I am or I'm not. So here's some examples. I'm not good at relationships. Or I am bad with money. I just can't seem to hang on to it. Or I don't have time. I never have the time to. Or I can't do that because. Or I'm too old to do whatever it might be. Or no, I don't deserve love, happiness, success, whatever it is. I am not. Think about times where you do have thoughts that I am or I'm not. And whatever comes up for you, just write it down. Just get it out of your mind. Just write without thinking. Just write them down. Get them out on a piece of paper or on your phone or your laptop. Now you can pause this here and give yourself some more time. But I'm going to just give you a few seconds now to write down a couple that popped into your mind that came up quickly for you. Just write them down. As I said, what are the thoughts that you have about yourself that start with I am or I'm not? Okay, if you need some more time now, just hit pause and come back to this later. When you've written down your I am or I'm not statements that pop into your mind when you think about doing things, once you've identified those limiting beliefs, I want you to look at what you've written down and ask, are these really facts? How do I know they're true? What's the evidence to support this? is there any evidence? In my experience as a coach, there probably isn't any evidence to support these beliefs, but they're true to you inside you. I know they are. That's what I do. I work with people to help identify them and to help change them. Because they are just stories, and we can change the stories. We can change the narrative. They're just stories you've grown up with and that you've been telling yourself for years. And when we really dive into it, there's no evidence to, for, or against, because you've just let these beliefs stop you from giving it a go, from attempting to do new and different things. So I encourage you now to start creating a new narrative. And by that, I mean just think about what could be different. What story do you want to tell yourself? What story do you want to live? What belief do you want to have about yourself? And write that down. Write it down underneath. Write down new statements. Write down new I am statements that reflect the life you want to create. For example, instead of I'm not good at relationships, write down I'm learning how to build healthy relationships each and every day. Or instead of I am bad with money, write down I'm in control of my finances now that I focus on them. So for any of the statements you've written, switch the narrative and write it in a positive way, a way that you're already living it, that you already have it. Write it in a new positive statement. Now we're going to talk about embracing the process of change. I'll be honest, rewriting your story does take time, and you won't change your internal narrative and that little voice inside your head overnight. But every small step you take toward living your new story will create momentum. Over time, those small stories, those small changes will compound and you'll find yourself living the story you've rewritten. And one of the best ways to do this is to find a coach or mentor to help you. You can do it by yourself, but you'll do it much more quickly if you have a coach. One of the most powerful tools in this process is being kind to yourself. It's self-compassion. Change is challenging. It doesn't matter what you're changing, it's challenging because our brain is designed to keep us safe. So it doesn't like change. It likes the known, the things it's always grown up with. So just recognize and understand that there will be ups and downs and be kind to yourself. Exercise self-compassion. There will be moments where you might fall back into old patterns and that's okay. What matters is that you refocus, you get back up on the horse, and you keep choosing to rewrite your story, even sometimes when it feels difficult. Each time you hear or feel that inner critic rising up inside you, just acknowledge it. Just say to it, thanks, but I'm not listening to you now. I have a new story. And pull out your notes or your phone and say your I am statements to yourself and or say them out loud. Say each one 3 times. I am in control of my finances now that I focus on them. I am learning how to build healthy relationships each and every day. I deserve to have whatever it is that you are wanting to bring into your life. And say them to yourself and or out loud 3 times. And in fact, if you can make a habit of reading your I am statements each and every day, again, repeat each one 3 times and then move on to the next one, you will notice your self-belief rising. Thank you for joining me on today's podcast. Remember, the story you tell yourself is just a story, and you have the power to change it, to rewrite it, to create a narrative that reflects who you truly want to be. Until next time, know that confidence comes from making choices that align with the life you want, not the one you've been told to live. So start today, rewrite your story and embrace the life you're meant to live. And remember, it's okay to let your light shine. Until the next time, see you then. Bye.